Hello and welcome back to this new video. In the last video, we saw how to create an UI for our Android application in Flutter. In this video, we'll be talking about the state management, API calling functions. Like for that, we'll be using HTTP and how to get the user location to get the current weather for that particular location. So let's get started with the video. So at first we'll be looking at our pubspec.yaml file. So in this we'll need to add the dependencies. So at first we'll be adding our get. So this is the state management dependency which comes with a lot of things. It is more than the state management thing. So I'll explain you about this one as well. Now let's add another one which is the HTTP which help us to fetch the data, and another one is the location. So location plugin, like location plugin will help us to fetch the user current location. So before using the location plugin, what we have to do is we need to add some user permission in our Android manifest file. So for that, here I have already added those user permissions. So you can look at this. This is Android permission.foreground service and the access background location. So these two things you'll need to add in your Android manifest.xml file, and the location of this file is inside the Android app src, and inside the main you can find this Android manifest.xml file. Okay, now let's move to our home screen. So as you know, in our home screen we have all the UI. Okay, so we're not touching that one, and without touching that UI, we will be creating three folders here. The first one is a controller in which we'll be using our reactive variables, creating our reactive variables which can help us to update the UI. So as you can see here, one class I have created which is the universal controller that has been extending to the getX controller. So the getX controller is basically abstract class. By extending to this class we can create reactive variables, so those variable can help us to update the UI. Now let's move to the another folder which is the helper folder. So here in the helper folder, I have created two files. One is the API and another is the location helper. So as the name suggests, these two files will help us for the fetching the API data from the internet. Another will help us to fetch the user's current location, which we can provide to the API, and from that we'll get the weather data. And below that we have this view. Inside we have our current home view, which is currently our UI basically. Now let's move to the home view. So here we have our some sort of UI which is static UI which we have given here. So let's create a variable for every widget that we need to update. So here in the screen you can see we have this all the widgets. So let's look at the data which one we will be updating. So here the first one here is the Mumbai that will be updating according to the user location. Then this is the 21 degrees Celsius, and below that we have the date, and this the below data. So this all the stuff will be updating according to the current data. Now let's move to the controller. So here we have the controller, right? So let's create a variable which will be updating according to the data. So let's create a variable for current location of user, that would be the rxn string, and so this would be the location, current location I can say, and this would be rxn string. So here we have this rxn string variable which is the current location. So we have created this reactive variable. So this variable will help us to update the location of user with respect to the data. Now let's create another variable for the, let's create several variables like current temperature, then we have date, then we have humidity index and wind speed. So here we have created an variables which can help us to update the UI state with respect to our API data. Now let's move to the API helper file and create a API helper class. API helper, okay, and inside this we should have a function of fetch data. So fetch data, here we have created this function before implementing. So yeah, before implementing this function we should have the API URL. So let's go to the OpenWeather and sign in here, click on the API and let's get the URL at first. So here we have this current weather data. Let's go to the API doc and we should have this URL with us. I'll just copy this URL and just paste it here and named it as base URL. So we will be replacing the lat, long and API key from this URL. We'll make this static const. So we have this URL with us, and now what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a function which named a fetch data, and that would be taking from us like latitude and longitude. And then we'll be doing some modification into this base URL. And then what we'll be doing is we'll be replacing the latitude, longitude, and API key from this base URL here. So let's do this thing first. So here what I have done is I have created a variable URL, and inside this I have took this base URL here, and then I have replaced this lat with the latitude which we are getting into this function, and the same I have done with the longitude. And one more thing I have done is here I have created a constant class. Inside that I have done the same thing with this, and I have created an API key there. I'm fetching this API key into our API helper function, and there I'm replacing this API key keyword to with our current API key. Then what I have done is I have used this http.get package, and I'm collecting this response which we are getting from this http.get. We are doing one more thing, we are just modifying this, or we are just passing this string into the URI, as this dot get function will require the URI as a URL. So we have done that, and below we are checking whether we got the response that is okay or not. Like the okay response will be having some HTTP code like 400 200. So if we are getting 200, then everything is working fine, we are getting the correct response. So now let's just test this thing. So as we are in our home view and we know our home view is a stateful widget, so why not just create an innate state here, and inside this we can call our API and check whether it is working fine or not. Before we moving to that, we'll just create an API helper object here. That would be the API helper. Let's, as we are accessing, let's make it API helper and then again API helper. Let's create a fetch weather data, and inside it would be the async, and then here we are awaiting for the response. API helper dot fetch data will be passing latitude and longitude. So it is 78008 and another is 76.008. So I'm not sure for these coordinates for what location, but I'm just passing it casually and let's see whether we are getting the correct response or not. And we'll be calling this fetch weather data into our home view. Let's say our app is reload and this will be get called. Now let's use this controller here and then fetch data. Now let's see whether it is working fine or not. Let's reload the application and let's see. So here, as you can see, we have reload our application and here we got below the response, and in the response we have the latitude and longitude which we have passed, and also we got the weather information in weather variable which is the list of this thing, and then we have base, that is some sort of stations, I'm not sure about it, and then inside the main we have that minimum temperature, what it feels like, and then we have humidity, max temperature, time zone, and all this stuff. So as we are facing the our weather data for this coordinate successfully, and as you can see, we have got the output below here. Now let's go to the location helper and let's create a location helper class where we will be defining how to get the current location of user. So this would be the location helper, and inside this we'll be using the location package and we'll be creating the instance of that location, and this would be the location. Okay, and we'll be using this location. Let's make it final. We can do this fetch current location, and this will be the async, and let's come back. Now as I mentioned already, I have done some modification in android.xml file. Let me just show you that file again. It is an Android app src main, and here we go. We have this android manifest.xml, and inside this I have added this two user permission. One of them is foreground services, sorry, it's service, and then we have the access background location. Now let's come back to the location helper. As we have created an instance of this location, let's use this. So here in the fetch current location, we'll be first checking whether the user have the location or not. First, we'll be checking, check user permission. Second, if not having permission, request for permission. And third, if having permission, fetch the current location. So what we'll be doing, we are just creating an if location dot has permission, and this is equals to permission status dot granted, or what is this? So this is the future. Let's do await here. Then again we'll be checking location dot has permission is equals to permission status dot granted limited. So one of them, if we have it, then we'll be doing this thing. So one more thing which we can do is here, pop this thing out and let's create a variable final location permission status, and it's equals to this thing. Okay, and we can paste this thing here instead of using this 2 times. So we'll be getting the same thing. So as we have fixed this thing here, now let's check another thing. As we have done, we are checking for the user permission, and if not having the permission, we'll be requesting the permission. So this is the else, and we are awaiting here until the user give us the permission. So it is location dot request permission, and then we'll be calling this function again. So this is fetch current location. Now if the user has given us the permission has been granted, we'll be fetching the location. So location dot get location will be having this thing, and then we'll be awaiting for this as well, and this will be the current location. Current location, and this would be the double. Let's do this thing. Okay, this will return us the location data, and this location data valid dot latitude and longitude. We need a latitude and longitude. So what we'll be doing here is, instead of storing this, what we'll be doing, this would be the latitude and longitude. As we know, we'll be storing inside this current location. So we'll be storing the latitude and longitude inside this current location variable. So this is, instead of value, let's get location instead of value. So it is get log instead of value. Then we'll do one thing, it is get log dot latitude comma get log dot longitude, and that's it. We are done here, and let's make this as nullable again. Okay, this has to be in this way. So here we have got the latitude and longitude, that is the current location here. We are returning the current location from here, and then if we are not getting anything, we'll be returning, will not return anything. So this will return us latitude and longitude, right? So this is the future of double. And this might be null. Let's make it null. So let's see how this function works. So we have this fetch current location function. Inside that we have the location permission. So at first we'll be looking for the location permission. If the user have location permission, then we'll be executing this block. Otherwise we'll be coming here, we'll be requesting for the location permission, and if that value, like user has given us the location permission, then we'll be again calling this fetch current location. If permission status is denied, let's do this as well. If value dot permission status, right, is not coming, is basically permission status, right? So if value dot value is equals to permission status dot denied or denied forever, to permission status dot denied forever, then we'll be returning not directly, not doing anything, we'll be just returning the null. Okay, now let's reformat our code here. Let's try to call this function and let's see whether we are getting the current location of user or some kind of error. So here we are in the universal controller, so let's create and the same for our location helper. So final location helper underscore location helper is our location helper. Now let's create one method as same fetch current location. This would be the async as well, and here we'll be awaiting for our location helpers fetch location. Now let's see what we'll be getting. So this will be returned as latitude and longitude. So let's say final current location is equals to this thing, and let's try to print our current location. Current location is basically Rx of strings. Let's define it double of double. The same thing we'll be doing here as well, and we can directly assign this here. So here we have this current location and we'll be assigning this to current location. Now this say can't be assigned to this, so let's do this as well. Let's do value here, so now it will get assigned to our variable. Let's call this fetch current location in the same way we have called the API helper function. Let's go here, we'll do the same here as well. So at first we'll be calling our fetch current location. Now restart the app and let's see what will happen. So as we have restarted the app, it is asking us for the location permission. As we do not have the location permission, it will ask us for the location permission. So I can say first I'll give the location permission and let's see whether we will be getting the location or not. So I can see we have null here, so this should not be the case. Now if I can restart it again, so again I'm getting the null. So let's see what's wrong with our code. Current location dot value. Now again I'll be restarting this. Again this is a null. Let's go to the fetch location. Let's try to debug our application. So we should say return this. Here also we have the record. Instead of doing this thing, can directly do this thing. Let's change our return type as well. This looks cool. Now do this for the same. So we'll not be requiring this. Again, we'll be running our application as we have tried to resolve this thing. Let's come back to our universal controller and check what we need to do. I should give this here. Let's try to run this again. And here you can see we have got the current location of the user. So as we have able to fetch the weather data and current location, in the next video we'll be adding this scenario in our mobile application. When user will be able to first open the application, he will be able to see his current location's weather. And also we'll be adding some extra features in the next video. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, please hit subscribe button and press the bell icon.